Well, welcome to this video, and I hope you like it. If you do, click the like button, hit subscribe, and share with a friend. Na zdrowie. I want to talk a little bit today about why this costs way more than you think it does, and why people just in general don't understand cost. Plastic is actually rather expensive. Many things are more expensive than we think they are. And part of the reason for this is because we live in a capitalist society, and without going too far down the political rabbit hole, we were originally set up to be more of a socialist society. Although that's debatable, because when they said we the people and of, by, and for the people, a lot of those people were actually thinking more of wealthy landowners or capitalists, whereas truly being we the people, as in the general population, is socialism. Socialism is based on the root word for society. Means it's a government for the whole of society. And of course there's all kinds of modern takes on this, and this is kind of a dumbed down definition. But capitalism is basically of, by, and for the capitalists. Everybody likes to think it's about them, but unless you're, a Zuckerberg or an Andrew Carnegie or an Elon Musk, it's really not about you. You're just the grease that makes the machinery run. And that's why our regulations are the way they are. And that's why people don't really understand the costs of things. Because cost isn't just money, or even when it is money, it can be indirect. Going back to this, or looking at coal or oil or so many things, they talk about the price, the monetary price that the consumer pays for something, as if that's the whole cost. But, there's a cost to people's health. There's a cost to the environment at large. There's so many other hidden costs. And a lot of times, you're not paying for it when you get the supposedly cheap product. You're paying for it indirectly. For instance, with something like coal mining, you're paying the cost to society of the air pollution, whether it be global warming, your kid getting asthma, your grandparents having COPD, different things like that. It's a cost. And even in monetary terms, there's healthcare costs associated with that. On top of just the drudgery, the pain and suffering as a cost. There's a monetary cost there. You're not paying that cost when you buy a lump of coal. You're not paying for that cost when you get a kilowatt of electricity that was generated with coal. You're paying for it somewhere else, but you're still paying for it, just people don't realize they're paying for it. And the same goes with acid mine drainage, coal mines that close down, mine subsidence, where, years after these coal mines are abandoned, people's houses sink. So many related things, and not just to pick on coal. I'm in a coal region here in western Pennsylvania, so it's a common thing that, at least locally, maybe people can relate to. You know, when you see, I want to say it was in the, oh, what the hell's the name of that neighborhood? It's just east of the South Side Slopes. I'm drawing a blank on the name of it. But, yeah, like between Arlington Heights. But, yeah, up there, like between the South Side Slopes and where Beck's Run is, that little area up in there, you know, they had a couple of blocks of homes they had to condemn a few years back. It was on the news. Mine subsidence. I mean, there's no active mines there today, but, you know, the people who bought the coal didn't pay for it. The company didn't have to pay for it. The people had to pay for it long after the coal company went out of business. But that's still a cost of that coal that was extracted years and years ago. Acid mine drainage polluting water, not only killing fish, but adding to the cost of water treatment for your drinking water. The additional corrosion it causes, where in areas like that have become suburbs or even urban areas, the wear and tear on sewer systems, you know, from the acidity of it. Just so many problems created that you weren't paying the money for it when you bought the lump of coal, but everybody in the society is collectively paying for it anyway. You know, it's a very unequitable thing. If you forced a company to pay the cost of all these cleanups and, you know, complying with the environmental laws and everything else, everybody complains, well, that jacks up the cost of, you know, natural gas or oil or coal or plastic or you know, whatever. But the thing is, what you're not realizing is, instead of the company having to pay that cost and passing it on to a consumer who's going to pay for that in the cost of, you know, the plastic fork, the lump of coal, whatever, well, then society as a whole has to pay through it, either through the actual loss in value of their environment or loss in health or the monetary cost of doing a cleanup or buying somebody's house whenever it gets condemned because it's sinking, or, you know, paying the healthcare costs for, you know, people who may not be able to afford to pay for their own health care, you know, whatever. Or even with people who can pay for their health care, people who have insurance. Your insurance rates are going up because of, you know, the increased rates of asthma or this or that or the other thing caused by the pollution, caused by X. And, you know, that's driving up the cost of your health care because it affects the cost of everybody across the board. And that's what people don't realize. So you see something that, yeah, you know, cost a penny or whatever, and you're like, oh, you know, that's so cheap. You have to think about what other costs are in it. You know, now we've got a problem with plastics in the ocean. We've got problems with recycling plastic because different types of plastic need to be recycled differently. They make compostable plastic, which isn't very compostable in a lot of situations. They do a lot of mixing products. I mean, you got neat things like plastic-coated paper, which, you know, you can't really recycle it as paper or plastic because, you know, the plastic screws up the paper recycling process and the paper screws up the plastic recycling process. So you've got a lot of stuff like that. And, you know, you hear things in the news about some of these foreign countries where we were exporting all this stuff to be recycled anyway. But then part of the problem is this stuff was going to these countries and they couldn't recycle it because the stuff that we sent them had so much cross-contamination like that. It's like, well, I can't recycle this plastic as plastic because it's got, you know, bits of metal and paper and food and whatever the hell else mixed in with it. in Europe, they really segregate their recyclables. Over here, a lot of times, you know, like where I live, you got a recycling bin. All your stuff goes in there. Glass, aluminum, plastic, whatever. You know, it makes it a lot harder to separate farther down the road. And some things like, you know, you melt glass, that paper just burns off. But, you know, different waste streams, different problems. They got a problem with composting. Composting's common in some areas, but they got those damn little plastic stickers on every damn piece of fruit in a store. So if the fruit goes bad, you can't really compost it because your compost is going to have a whole bunch of little plastic tags in it that are going to take, you know, years and years and years to break down. And, you know, it just goes on and on and on. But nobody seems to really give a shit because they're not paying for it in the instant. You know, they're not paying for the extra packing materials. I remember back in college, we were, you know, learning about the waste streams and stuff, and, you know, talking about Europe started charging the future cost of disposal to the manufacturers when they packaged items, and all of a sudden all this extra packaging went away because they started becoming, you know, it was a competitive edge to sell your product cheaper. So if you're not paying an extra $10 for an extra layer of bubble wrap to be disposed at the end of the product's life, you make it a lot more environmentally friendly. You don't package it the same way. You make it more recyclable. The United States, we just don't seem to give a shit about that. And, you know, people, for the most part, you know, a lot of people don't even recycle, and most of the people who do don't even think of it beyond that. You know, it used to be, when they originally came out, reduce, reuse, recycle. And nobody worries about the first two R's. I mean, that's a good subject for video on its own. But, you know, everybody pats themselves on the back. Oh, you know, I blow through a case of bottled water a week, but I recycle. You know, big fucking deal. You know, you're still generating all that trash, and for all you know, the shit's just being shipped over to Singapore or Thailand or Cambodia or wherever the hell they're sending it now. Because, like I said, a lot of these countries a few years back started turning the stuff away because they couldn't do anything with it. And a lot of it, you know, you're just exporting it over there, and then it's ending up in the ocean. Because it just ends up, you know, they dump the trash at sea. They can't do anything with it. They don't have a place to landfill it. Or even if it does end up in a landfill, you know, not all of them are built to the same standards over here. And, you know, landfills eat up land. That's another cost. You know, we tend to pay for garbage disposal over here, but proportionally, there's just so many issues and so much trash, and, you know, it's insane. You know, it ought to be rigged so that trash disposal is free, and, you know, it's paid for in the manufacture of the product. You know, when you buy a plastic fork, you should be paying for the disposal fee, so it's free for people to dispose of it. You know, disposal of various items such as tires gets to be a problem in and of itself, because when landfills don't take them, or your local trash collector doesn't take them, people end up with stuff that they don't know how the hell to get rid of. And then it ends up in a ditch on the side of the road because people just get exasperated and don't know what the hell to do. You know, it's a bad system, but it's all predicated on the companies maximizing their profits. So they want to sell this at the lowest price, or the lowest monetary value from the consumer, and, you know, have the consumer in the form of taxpayers and, you know, municipal ratepayers take up that cost somewhere else, you know. And that's why, like I said, nobody really understands the cost of a plastic fork, because you don't know what else is an indirect cost that you're paying for in things like this. We have a system where things are, you know, part of the reason why chemicals are getting recalled all the time, you know, it's rigged in the favor of the company so that, you know, the company sort of self-tests, and if it doesn't instantly, you know, create all kinds of havoc, they just assume that a chemical is perfectly safe. And then that's why so many things are put on the market, and then a decade later, you know, it's found to cause cancer or cause some sort of other problem. And that goes with what the hell is that? PFOS, that goes with PCBs, it goes with almost every pesticide ever made, and just so many things, you know, that you just put it out into the environment and, you know, make your money, and then if you got to recall it, well, you take it off the market, you already made your money and you move on, but society's still paying for that. People are still cleaning up, you know, lead paint and asbestos and, you know, lead water lines and so many other things. And it's like, well, you know, cheap at the time. Now we got problems with plastic in the oceans. And, you know, I like the people that'll argue that, you know, they don't care about the ocean because they don't eat fish or whatever. Yeah, but if the people who do eat fish start eating hamburgers, the price of your hamburger is going to go through the roof. So you better start caring about fish. But, you know, hopefully I made my point. You got to look at the indirect costs and realize, you know, the system is rigged so that, you know, the capitalists keep on making their money, and they keep on selling you these products as being, you know, so cheap and affordable, and yet, you know, you're paying a penny for it over here, and you're paying $1 for it over there through, you know, your tax dollars and your health insurance premiums and, you know, so many other things. You know, you're paying for the things that the companies don't pay for and pass on to the consumer indirectly through taxes and things like that. You just don't realize it. So hopefully it makes you think a little bit. See you on the next one. Well, I hope you found that video informative. Hopefully it made you think, and please click the like button and subscribe if you haven't done that already, and check out the video that should be appearing somewhere around me here, and I hope to see you on the next one. Thanks.